there, Anna here, and today we are going to be going over why you need to skip the iPhone 14 and get the iPhone 13 instead. Why? This phone is still a really good phone this year and for the years to come. But if you take a closer look between the 14 and the 13, they're both basically the exact same phones except for a few minor changes. But honestly, you might not really care that much about these changes. They both use the same A15 Bionic chip. They have the same 800 nits of brightness with 1200 nits of peak brightness for HDR content. And they both have the Super Retina XDR display with 60Hz refresh rate. Apple hasn't made ProMotion standard in all the lines yet. They made it for the Pro lines only, which is so Apple because 120Hz refresh rate is standard for a lot of the other competitors. Also, they have the same 12 megapixel camera and they can both film up to 4K with 60 frames per second. The other differences really are pretty small, but I mean, it depends on the person if that's important to them. However, this video is not about the iPhone 14 or a direct comparison to the iPhone 13, but I am going to refer MKBHD's video on the iPhone 14 because he does a really good job talking about how the iPhone 14 is basically a repackage of iPhone 13. Now, let's talk about why the iPhone 13 is still so good in 2022, 2023, and the years to come. Out of all the sizes that came out with the iPhone lines, the 6.1 inch is my personal favorite because it's big enough for me to watch my videos, play games, or go on social media and create content without it feeling too heavy, because with the Pro Max lines, those just get heftier each year. Now, with 800 nits of brightness, that is perfectly fine indoors for me. I've never had any issues with that. And when I'm going outside, 80% of the time, it's enough brightness to combat sunlight, but on really bright sunny days and direct sunlight onto your phone, you will experience some glares as well, but that's not going to be happening all of the time. I find 800 nits is really great for me. More, it'll probably be overkill indoors, but it'll be nice for outdoors. If you have 100% battery health on your iPhone 13, you will get all-day battery life. It will result to about 12 hours a day. And for me, that is pretty good because when I was using it throughout my day, I take a lot of photos and videos for content, vlogging, my B-rolls, and I oftentimes film in 4K resolution, which takes a lot of space and eats away at your battery. So 12 hours is really solid for me. Now, if you are buying an older phone or refurbished, take a look at the battery health, because if it's lower than 80%, I wouldn't recommend you getting it because you're not going to get the best results. 80 to 100% is the sweet spot and where you will most likely get all-day battery life, unless you are using it for intensive purposes like playing games a lot throughout the days or filming a lot of videos. Then you'll probably get enough battery for about 2/3 of the day. The 12 megapixel camera has an aperture of 1.5, and this means more light is just going to come in through the lens, brightening your photos and focusing it a lot better. Now, when you're taking photos on the iPhone 13, it's really hard to mess it up because they come out bright, vibrant, and really clear. Look at how cute Nala looks in these photos. Y'all don't need professional cameras to take beautiful photos of your friends, family, or loved ones. You can also say, Anna, how can you mess up taking photos if you have good lighting? And that's true. The iPhone 13 has LiDAR technology, which is probably my favorite because it does such a great job taking photos under low light conditions and videos as well. A lot of the times when I'm taking videos or photos under low light conditions, I go for my iPhone instead of my EOS M50, because with my EOS M50, the footage comes out more noisier and overexposed, whereas the iPhone 13, it's so much more clear, less noisy, and not overexposed whatsoever. And it's really easy to edit. Y'all can take great videos in 4K and up to 60 frames per second, making for really vibrant, colorful, beautiful, and quite smooth footage. Now, here is a comparison between the iPhone 13 and the S21 FE. Both really good phones and competitive to each other because they came out about the same time. My boyfriend's the one following me, and Nala, and he's not a videographer. However, you can tell that the footage came out really smooth, especially if you film in 60 frames per second. And so when it comes to videos, you can definitely use this as a vlogging camera, as I do a lot of the times when I don't want to carry my camera. And what's really great is that it's really steady. There's this footage of me vlogging and I'm so exhausted because I worked out upper body that morning, and that was like the third time filming that clip, and my arms were shaking so so much. I just remember it because that's what I said in the video. And so if you want a phone that can be a camera and you want to test content creation, the iPhone 13 is perfectly fine for you, especially with the front-facing camera. It has such great quality. I have a footage with the S21 FE compared to my iPhone, and the S21 FE, I look like I aged at least 5 years. The color is so off and very dull compared to the iPhone 13 line. So the iPhone 13 is a great video camera if you want to test out content creation. I feel like not enough people talk about how great the speakers are in the iPhones lately. The stereo speaker quality in the iPhone 13 will definitely fill up a room if you're just by yourself or doing chores or have a few people over. It's not gonna fill a room for a party, but it will get the job done because I find that as you increase the volume, it doesn't have any really much noise in the background or get really screechy. With the S21 FE, I noticed that as you increase the volume, there is a bit of noise going on in the background, and it's not as clear or good of a quality compared to the iPhone 13. And so the iPhone 13 is definitely going to be great to, put in the background when you're doing your chores, working, or going in the shower and singing your heart out. The A15 Bionic chip with 6-core CPU and 4-core GPU performs quite excellent. When you have multiple programs running in the background, it's going to keep up with your usage. A lot of times I have Notion running, and Notion itself has a lot of commands in that app, but also I have videos running in the background on YouTube, editing apps, but also my everyday social media usage. And so when I'm navigating through these apps, the performance honestly keeps up really well no matter what I'm doing. And so the iPhone 13 is definitely going to keep up with your everyday activities, whether it's intense or not. Now, I don't game, that's why I'm referring to Nano Review, who did a bunch of tests between the A15 Bionic chip and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chip, which is used in a lot of Android phones. As you can see, the A15 Bionic chip wins in every single category, even gaming. That I'm very surprised about, but again, I'm going to refer to other gaming channels on that. However, it's really interesting to see that it keeps up with its competitors in the gaming section, because we know Apple isn't really known for gaming, but for those who wants to play on the iPhone, I'm sure you're not going to have any issues at all. According to the Geekbench 5 test, you can see that the A15 Bionic chip still wins over the Snapdragon 888 chip, and that's why I'm saying the iPhone 13 is still going to be a really great phone for this year and the years to come, which you're not going to really have to worry about performance issues in the next couple of years. I also want to add that the iPhone 14 uses the exact same chip, so you're going to get basically the same performance between the two, which is why you should still go for the iPhone 13 lines. The iPhone 13 starts off with 128 gigabytes and goes up from there, but if you are going for the 128 gigabytes option, it's going to be more than enough for an average user. And if you are using this for content creation, it will be enough. However, you may run into some scenarios where it's going to be full if you aren't transferring it off to your laptop. If you keep all your footage on your iPhone, then no, the 128 gigabytes is not going to be enough. A lot of times I transfer it to my laptop and then delete it from the phone, and that's why I say it's more than enough. But again, if you keep everything on your iPhone, no, get like 256 or even 1 terabyte of storage. Alright, I talked a huge game about how great the iPhone 13s are. Now let's talk about some cons that you should be aware about. And first is the iPhone 13 is still using the Lightning cable and hasn't converted to USB Type-C yet. According to some news articles, Apple is being forced to convert to USB Type-C in the near future, so hopefully we get that soon. And if you're wondering what the difference is between the Lightning cable and USB Type-C is, I will put a chart up to share the difference, but basically it boils down to transfer speeds. USB Type-C is just a lot faster and more efficient cable than Thunderbolt. The second downfall is that iPhone 13 is still using 60 Hz refresh rate versus 120 Hz refresh rate, which is pretty standard to a lot of Android phones and phone competitors. In Apple fashion, they only reserve the Pro Motion for the Pro lines, starting at at the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, Apple does make a good experience with 60Hz refresh rate. However, if you ever use a phone with 120Hz refresh rate, you're gonna notice how liquid it feels, how it flows so nicely, and it's just a different experience. Is it a game changer? No, because again, Apple makes really good experience with 60Hz refresh rate. However, it is really nice to have and elevates your experience using your phone. The third downside is that the iPhone 13s have a notch and thicker bezels. I find that a little goes a long way when it comes to display, and compared to the S21 FE, which has basically no notch, just a front-facing camera and thin bezels, you can see how big the display can look with these minor changes. Again, it still is the perfect size for me, but I would like smaller bezels and basically no notch. And lastly is the fingerprint issue. Because the back is made out of glass, you are going to be prone to a bajillion fingerprints, like back in the day when a virus would pop up and would just populate your display. Yes, this is what's gonna happen when you are using the iPhone 13. However, a majority of you guys are gonna be wearing a case, so it may not apply to you, but this applies to y'all who are crazy and wild enough to have a phone without a case. But yeah, realize that you will have a lot of fingerprints on the back of your phone. Brand new, the iPhone 13 is gonna cost you about 999 Canadian dollars, but if you buy it refurbished, you can probably save on a couple $100s with the iPhone 13, and you're basically getting a brand new phone. Now, the iPhone 14 will cost you $100 more, and that is why I say skip the iPhone 14, because it's basically a repackaging of the iPhone 13 with a few new features, but it will cost you more money. Whereas the iPhone 13 is still a really great phone for 2022, 2023, and the years to come, but won't cost you $1,000 if you are buying it refurbished. Alright, that was my review of the iPhone 13, or roasting the iPhone 14, whatever you want to call it. If it helped you out, definitely slap that like button for me. I would totally appreciate it. And if you aren't subscribed already, definitely consider it. I make a lot of tech and lifestyle content while documenting this whole YouTube content creation journey. However, that is it for me, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.